Well, good evening on the Empty Skull Ranch. Here we are with the second installment of Square Body Rescue. Here's that cab I was talking about. Now, few people know the secret to moving a square body cab around. Now, this isn't something I came up with. I was taught this trick by somebody who's dealt with these trucks for a long time. But as you can see, the way to do it is you put ratchet strap on this lip in the back, run it over the roof, and then bring it around to the front and hook it right up on your forks. And then down here, there's that handy dandy loop. It's almost like it's made for it. And your forks at full width ride right on the cab mount struts. Bring these up underneath and bring them to right there, and you got a ready-made square body bed transport. And it doesn't dent the floor because you're right on those cab mount cross braces. So let's put this thing down on the lift so that I can do some rust repair. Yep, I know I wanted to do a rust-free cab, but considerably less rust than I would have had to have dealt with on another case. And yes, way less rust. So let's put these supports up and get this cab on there. Well, it's a lot quieter now. The tractor's not running, all commotion and noise. I was going to put it up on the lift, but I had a better idea. Let's take a look. All right. Da-da-da. Pallet strikes again. So now we can assess the damage. This is the mother of all. This sucks. Look at that. Captive nut is captive. That is broke. So odds of getting that out of there are probably 1 in 5 million. 5 million. A few more circles. Zeros. But anyway, let's dig into the meat and potatoes rather than wallowing and crying in the mud. So this, not opportune, but solid, solid-ish. Solid, ugly, but solid. So eliminate this, get all the cancer out from behind it. Plate on that, call it good enough. This right here, not ideal, but this is the grand poopa of poopy on this cab. So this right here, as you can see, this cab had a rug in it. And the rug, the jute got all wet and it just sat in water. And that is what happened. Water sucks. So I'm gonna do my best to save on as much of this steel as possible. Take the bad out, put a patch in there, come in from under here, and see how much of because I'm getting rockers coming in. The rockers are going to get done, so I'm probably just going to do as much of the rocker as covers, and then come in with some plain steel right in the back, right down along the back side of this and just work it a little bit to kind of give it the shape it needs to have. Before I cut this out, I am going to do my best to form that piece of steel into what this is. So I know I could just buy the floor pan. It'd be a lot easier. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. But for now, this is what we're looking at. But overall, let's look at the positives here, guys. Let's look at positives. Floor, mostly good. Look at this, the cowl, firewall, whatever you want to call it. Pretty good. This isn't all crusty. It's not all rotten right here. Heater core is good. I know because I ran some water through it. No leakage. So that heater core is good. Not crusty right along here. This is all good. Hydro boost brakes. Not going to use them. Going to put the regular master cylinder and power booster in from the original cab. But when you get here, all this stuff, it's all there. Not rusty, except for maybe this part right here. But it's solid still. It's just flaking paint. Caught just in time before it became a problem. So, but the rest of this pinch weld, it's all good. No rot up here. The roof of this cab is beautiful. There's the rest of it, I'm liking. I'm digging this. The whole back side of it, A-okay. Come around to this side, yeah, the cab corners suck. But that rear mount, it's all there. Even these cab corners, that's rotted through right there, but a lot of that is salvageable up there. That's not rotten through. Caught just in time. What I think I'm going to do, I don't want a collection point, so I might just slice the rot right off of there and just have it end right there and have the cab corner come up right here and just come up with a plan as to sealing it up there somewhere, just so we don't have water collection down here holding water and all that other stuff, or just punching a piece of tin over there just to cover that up. But right here, this is all good until it's not. So same play over here. We're just going to take some tin, tap it, form it. Rockers coming in for this side, and all of that is brushing out pretty nicely. This is such a bane. I know you can go in and cut a hole on the other side, and I might have to go do that, but the captive nut is captive. It's all good. Maybe I can get a hold of it and pull it out of there, but keep positive. Right there, that's looks worse than it really is. All the stuff actually looks worse than it really is. So, again, right here, this was caught just in time. If this thing sat on the ground any longer before I went and bought it, we would have had some serious issues on our hands. But even that's still steel. That can be saved. And when all this is said and done, seam sealed, pour 15, all that good stuff, fresh coat of black paint on it, and we'll roll it over and throw it onto the frame. Also, the other glaring point being that this is a two-wheel drive cab, obviously. Low tunnel right here. So luckily, the existent cab I have, that plate looks like it will work swimmingly. Just cut out that part of the tunnel and just install that plate, and then we'll have a four-wheel drive cab. Presto changeo. All right, so we're gonna try to get this stubborn body mount out of there. As you can see, I've already kind of worked it out a little bit, but I'm gonna weld this one last larger nut to it and see if that can't persuade it out of there. with a little bit more weld around there and a little bit more time for it to set in there and give a heat treatment to that stub, it should come out. All right, so to try to hold this guy captive with the ground clamp whilst superimposing it over the threaded surface. Hopefully it doesn't shoot any slag too far down in there and I can just get it around the area that's occupied, well, unoccupied at the time. All right. As you can see, it is successfully welded on there. Hopefully enough bite, and I hope it didn't down into there to defeat the purpose and grip the captive nut. We're soon going to find out. Also, whilst it's hot like this, if there's a gap, which I see there is one right there, I'm going to shoot some of this stuff down in there. I think it's vaporizing before it hits the threads. But, oh, nope, it's coming out that side, which would hint that it's going to where it needs to be in the threads. Hopefully, this will be the last bit needed to get this body mount unstuck. Good friend Spud Wrench here is going to aid in this removal. Nice long length to grab a hold of. Gotta de-rustify this guy. I like this wrench. Alright, carefully. Careful. And I'm also going to work it back so that way it really kind of breaks free. Work it back. And now go for broke. I can't decide if this is moving too easily as to twisting the nut off of there, or if it's actually moving those threads, because I cannot see the shaft of that body mount. One could only hope that it's working in the right direction. I can hear the creaking, you know, a little bit of crunching in there. That's hinting that it might be spinning that shaft. And there's a little bit more of a lax, it's moving now, which would tell me those threads are backing out. This has been a bane, this body mount. Working backwards again to we gain ground, we gotta give ground. So hopefully This cab is really not the worst square body cab I've ever seen. Actually, come to think of it, this day and age, it's probably one of the better ones. That isn't $2,500, that is. Getting back some ground. And give back some ground. Now readjust. I think we're getting somewhere. Notice we now have a little bit of looseness, which I am not going to lose this opportunity to shoot a little bit more weasel piss in there. So let me put this spud wrench up here for now. I literally have broken off so many of these hex nuts before I got to this point. It started as a small nub and has worked its way out to present some of its threads. So have patience if you're doing this. It'll get there. There we go. This operation requires a lot of patience. Let me take this hat off. Tis the most goofy hat. This operation requires a lot of patience because you're working slowly, gaining ground, giving ground, gaining ground, giving ground. The point is that once you do that enough, you're going to work full circle around this thing and it's going to come out. All right. Always, when you get these, if you're working on one of these and you get a cab that has body mounts stuck to it, try to do whatever you can to get those body mounts out of there whilst you have the body of the body mount stuck on it. Because this is truly a pain in the you-know-what, because you're constantly having to re-weld, especially if you only have a tiny little stub, like what you saw what we were left with, a tiny little tip of it sticking out, not even big enough for a pair of pliers to grab onto. So this started with superimposing the nut over that and having the chute weld down into that nut, which is only grabbing the very end of it, and not to anybody's surprise, but it was kept ripping them off. And then I'd have to re-weld, finally enough getting it to break just a little bit. And it's those thermocycles, those heat cycles, that I think were what ultimately breaks this loose. So, because you're cycling it hot and cold. And there's this wonderful tool that I've been made aware of that you can get online called, I think, the hot rod or something like that. You use a heating coil to, if you got stuck nuts and bolts, it wraps the heating coil around the nut, superheats the nut to the point of glowing. That does the same thing, but without having an open flame, because, you know, when you're working in an engine bay, you got wires, you got all this other stuff that's indirectly affected when you're trying to get stuck bolts out of things. And so if you don't want to shoot an acetylene flame into your engine bay to get a stuck nut out of something or a stuck bolt out of something, it's truly a godsend when you're melting wiring harnesses. So that is going to be part of my arsenal going forward. But for now, this is what we're working with. So we got to work with what we're given. So let's see what we can do with this. Remember when I gave the odds? What was it, 1 in 5 million that we're going to get this body mount out of there? Whereas, yep, that's, these things can be a real, you know what. But it shows what a little bit of perseverance and a little stick-to-itiveness can give. Once you get past the 100,000th time of the bolt breaking off of the thing and having to re-weld and redo it, you just got to be patient with these old trucks. If you're getting into this field or, you know, doing your own projects, you got to be ready to have tons of patience, because there's always going to be problems that come up that require outside of the box solutions for them. This is getting a little easier. And I don't want to put my ducks in a row too soon, but there we have it, an unstuck body mount. Hello, hello, hello. So happy to see you. Now we can see threads. We've obtained success. In fact, it's probably still hot. There it is. Just throw that in the bolt box and just use it for another project. There we go. Threads really aren't that bad looking in there. Now we got to clean all this up, see if we can get some actual paint to stick to it. Or first, got to patch that area up right there. You can see how much the sheer volume of WD we had to use. And that's that little blister in the back. I'll put a patch over that as well. But that's definitely a lot of nonsense to get this guy unstuck, but it's out of there. Now let's get straight into removing the old windshield rubber. As you can see, this channel, it was stuck to it quite well. I have been utilizing this guy with this brush on it to kind of touch up the little rust spots here and there, and then to get the straight up gasket material out of there. So this is yet to get done, and this is the progress so far. So as you see, it's mainly just dust. So I'm going to continue on doing that, and then we'll show you the underside of it. Touch up those little rust spots. As you see, it's taking most of that stuff right down to that little gully. So I'm going to finish that up, and then we'll take a spin on the other side. All right, here is the other side. Went from being, you know, troublesome to almost trouble-free. Well, I don't want to say that, but as you can see, I had a little bit of running down here. Went a little heavy with the POR 415. On the spots that had surface rust, I wire brushed them down and got it to where it was smooth, bone dried it, and then this side had a bit of oil on it that had run down. But after hitting it with the wire wheel again, it got past that, and I think it's going to stick swimmingly. nonetheless, to help hedge against further corrosion, once I get it up on the truck and all that, I'm going to do fluid film black all on the bottom, just to keep it at bay. These I have yet to do, because my plan is get it on the frame. That way, I was going to do it while it was right here, you would think. Right here on the pallet, what time is better than now? Only problem I have with doing it on the pallet is this is a main support beam, and if I cut this and cut there and then get this out of the equation, this cab is going to sway and flex and deflect, and before you know it, this doorway will not accept a door at all, because it will have warped to the point of being unrecognizable. So once it's on the frame, I can then go ahead and do these, because it's going to be where it needs to be. So unfortunately, would have loved to have done it while it was standing there right in front of me, but I'm going to put it on the frame just to be safe. I know it could probably be done and all that, but rather be safe than sorry. I don't want to be chasing my tail trying to get this cab to go back in the shape I need it to be in. Here we go. Got the truck fired up, brought her inside. Beds over here, cabs over here, frames over here. I wish I could have kept these fenders in with that cool pinstriping, but I got new of these marker lights. And let's take a look at that frame. Wow, not bad at all. Not shabby. So, one little trouble spot right here. Not a little bit of a plate tacked on there won't cure, but the rest of it, pretty impressive. I know the cab's sitting a little crooked and makes it look like the whole thing's sitting crooked, but I'll be able to address that when I put the Rough Country 4-inch lift kit onto this. But for now, there she sits, awaiting another day's work. All right, guys, see you when that day comes.